really being filmed? This is actually being filmed. Hi there, I'm Camille.
Oh, hi there. I'm Andrzej. It's a pleasure to meet you.
We had 3 days of riding on these motorcycles. Yeah. It's good that it rained on the first day, so we had 3 days of riding, 4 days of riding, because otherwise my hands would have just completely fallen off.
And you were counting on 4, okay.
I don't know, I was counting on 1, but it turned out as usual. Listen, this is material that is both useful and useless in a way, because it was supposed to convince you not to convert motorcycles into sport bikes, because it doesn't make sense. But I tried it, and I have to say, it actually makes perfect sense. It's brilliant. So if you've got the cash, just go for it, buy a new Fireblade, modify it like this one, and it's just pure awesomeness. But let me start.
Go ahead, start.
Thank you very much, because I wanted to say something about the Fireblade. Since I've ridden various generations of Fireblades, and finally this is the first Fireblade that's actually suitable for riding, because you don't know that the previous one had such an ABS system that as soon as you started riding fast on the track, no, it just wasn't possible. And when you hit the brakes, the rear would lift a bit and the ABS would kick in. That motorcycle was only suitable for amateurs up to a certain point. If you wanted to go fast, you'd get thrown off at every left turn, and turning off the ABS isn't that easy.
But exactly the previous model. Could that be the 2022 or an even earlier one?
2022, I rode it for a bit. Really?
Yes, even on the track.
With ABS? Yes. And how was it?
It wasn't.
Exactly.
It didn't deliver, but let me interrupt you a bit. It's about power delivery, right? Completely different actually between these two motorcycles. And well, you can really ride this one, but with the other one, not only did you have to rev it like a 600, but also the engine brake, everything. It just handled kind of weird.
We're talking about the 2022 model year, CBR 1000RR.
Yes. The Fireblade, the one with 3 Rs.
With three Rs.
And overall, it was harder to handle in the corners.
Yeah. See?
I really felt it.
See, so you actually have even better experience with it than I do, because, I really only rode that bike once during official tests. And, at those tests, everything is set up just right, and only the ABS bothered me. The rest was great. Plus, we were riding in Kara, so you could really push that bike and keep the revs up. But when we rode it in Poznan, first of all, you could really feel that the mid-range was weak. It was like a 600 in a liter version. But when it hit the power band, oh man! Besides, they kicked you out of Poznan right away because it was too loud. Talk, and it was already too loud.
It's a shame you can't see it here, but that pipe is huge.
That pipe is, yeah, crap, but it's just absolutely massive. Maybe I'll show it. Here, it's already quite a stronger. In the middle, you can really feel it. The gearing is still insanely long, right?
I did this whole inner part of the track here, from the first corner almost all the way to the exit onto the straight, just in second gear.
Yeah.
So they are very long indeed.
The gearing is insanely long, so that's something that would need to be changed if someone really wanted to get into it. These gear ratios are also so long because of new emission standards. Emissions? And interestingly, this motorcycle has much shorter gear ratios. And even though it should supposedly be more twitchy, in reality it's not at all.
The power delivery is actually very smooth. Actually, it would be cool to check how the stock version would perform if it had gear ratios like this, where the computer kind of takes over the heart. And it just kind of delivers that power. You know what I mean?
I think it might be that the sprockets really make a big difference, because imagine in the stunt when we were riding Bram there, when you're riding on the rear wheel, you have to be really precise with the throttle, right? And paradoxically, the bigger the sprocket, the smoother the throttle response. You'd think it would be more aggressive, but it's not, because it's about like how much the engine revs increase and how they drive the rear wheel. So a bigger sprocket means it drives less. That's the rear wheel. And here, you get in, the power is there. And just in that one gear, it's crazy fast, and even every 1000 RPM means a much higher speed. Ultimately, on the rear wheel, of course, we're getting off topic now, because the topic is, yes, the Fireblade. This one, straight out of the box, is really ready for fast track riding. So how fast did you go on the Fireblade today?
43.9 kilometers.
And on your own BMW S1000RR, with the lights on?
With the lights on, I also did 42.3, so a difference of 1.5 seconds. And what's more, I only did 4 laps on this motorcycle. I've never ridden this stock Fireblade before. Well, obviously a lot. I have experience with Honda, but when I took this one out at first, I honestly felt weird. I went out with Andrzej and I said, damn, he just takes off, goes fast, and mind them, it's so small, so slow.
How remarkably different everything truly feels, really. You know, some people might genuinely think that a mere second and a half is an absolutely huge and insurmountable difference, and that the BMW is so much demonstrably better than this particular one, but that's absolutely not the case at all, because that was just our very first and initial lap. This simply shows that Camel, on his own incredibly well broken in and familiar motorcycle, and on this brand new one, immediately puts down comparable and remarkably similar lap time. So that definitively proves that this motorcycle is simply and inherently suitable for riding on the track with great proficiency and ease. Right out of the box, just like the BMW 3, the Prius RS V4, or the Ducati Panigale V4. Finally, after all these years,
exactly what you said, that previously it was a difficult motorcycle, and for example, if I compared the previous model to another brand straight out of the box, the gap would have been even bigger. And here, just as you said, Honda came out with something where you really don't need to change anything, or you just change a few things for your own comfort, and you can really achieve very fast lap times.
Because the truth is, when I got on it, I was like, oh wow, this is great. And I feel stupid. Because right here is Milan Pawelek, who did a 138 on this bike. What was your best lap? 38.1. And when I was riding, you eventually overtook me, and I thought, damn, I'm keeping up with you, and that's my tactic. Either I give the rider a bike with street tires while I'm on slicks, though here. Both bikes had slickser. I give him a much less modified bike, and then I can finally ride with you, for example. And I was thinking, damn, I'm keeping up with you, I'll go for it. But then I thought, damn, I don't want to wear out the tires here, Milan. And I pulled off, and it turned out they had just changed to new tires, and there was all this, Thanks. Thank you very much for watching this video. Really appreciate your time. Yes, that's absolutely correct. I completely understand what you mean, and I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. Indeed, that makes perfect sense to me now.
And that's something you really have to remember, because I've also had that happen to me many times. I've personally ridden on that particular motorcycle, and I can confirm its unique characteristics. Yes, it's indeed designed to be very low to the ground, which is quite noticeable. Despite my height, as I am quite tall, I found that it wasn't an issue in terms of fitting onto the bike or experiencing any significant discomfort. However, initially, the sensation of riding it felt quite strange and unconventional. This is primarily because on most of the motorcycles, especially those in the 1000cc class, the rider typically sits much higher up, providing a different perspective and riding posture. With those powerful 1000cc machines, the elevated sitting position is standard, but here on this specific model, the sitting is exceptionally low. Nevertheless, this low design comes with distinct advantages that significantly enhance the riding experience. One of the most crucial benefits is that the center of gravity is positioned much lower. This engineering choice is precisely why we, as riders, feel such an incredible sense of stability and confidence, particularly when navigating through corners and leaning into turns. The lower center of gravity allows for a more planted and responsive feel, making the bike incredibly agile and enjoyable during dynamic maneuvers.
So again, it's a street bike that's supposed to be street legal, one you can touch to the ground, and you saw that it's kind of but what would I change? Maybe just to have any kind of feedback here. So yeah, you don't have to change anything. If you're an amateur and you want to ride on the track, you get on this bike, don't change the rear sets, don't change anything. I guess if you want, you can put on tire warmers to be sure, but we know that you can ride on the stock tires. Up to a certain point even, if you take it a step further, swap the tires for slicks, use tire warmers, you still don't have to change anything else on it.
Yeah, because today you can get such setups right out of the box, right? Yes, straight out of the box, brand new.
The only thing I would change, if I wanted to take it a step further, I'll say one thing, then you can add another, would be the gearing.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest aspect.
So, sprockets, chain needs a small cost, and you won't lose much on the street, unless, of course, you always ride to work at 300 kilometers per hour. Are you really going to ride at 300 kilometers per hour on a different gearing? Because with this gearing, it could go 380 if it had enough power. And the power in this motorcycle is brutal, as we know.
Actually, the gear ratios are shortened, and on the Boulder as well. I rode it, but not on the track. These aren't really gear ratios. These are keys.
This one had such short gears, I was shocked when I rode it and shifted from that to...
But 6 gear is really long. Yeah, it was on it, apparently.
Oh no, I had to check. You know, I was so hyped, like, it was awesome.
The next thing I would change, I think, would be the foot pegs, because the handlebars are adjustable. We were talking about this before the video started.
With the stock handlebars, you can adjust them.
Exactly, because the first thing I wanted to say was the handlebars, but then I noticed they're adjustable, so you can just set them up the way you like, which is another plus for this motorcycle. And then I would change the rear sets, because you can catch them somewhere if you lean in harder, right? I was also thinking about the brakes, because with stock motorcycles I always complain about the brakes right away, but here I didn't. These really bite very well, so I have no complaints here.
And this ABS, I'm just telling you that the brakes, here everything is great too. And this ABS finally TR-Uke. ABS, finally track and traction control here. I really had no complaints about the electronics at all. What I would change next, once you're already riding, is say, I already love this track so much. I love riding on this track so much that if Dunder takes off, I'll just keep riding on this track. So fairings.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, indeed.
Fairings is just a shame. It's just a shame, that's all. Because with fairings, you'll have a higher seat, you'll have a better riding position. And fairings and springs in the suspension according to your preference. Yeah, that's it. Because this semi-active suspension is great.
Yeah, I even rode it. It always gave me such a nice feeling, so I couldn't wait.
Please note, it's the same suspension, only this one is adjusted with screws, and that one is adjusted electronically. Because look, these forks are identical. It's one-to-one, exactly the same.
It's just the inside that's different.
Yes. And in my beloved little Triumph that I ride, I have this kind of suspension. And you just switch to the mode fixed if you want, and you set it electronically with those click 7 less bouncing around than with the manual ones.
With the manual ones, you have to turn them directly?
Yes. And apparently I still need to verify this over time, but I heard that if you turn it quickly, you can close the valve. If someone doesn't have experience and says, I want it set to hard, you can end up closing the valve. You know, it's just click, 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 turn it, and it's closed, and the suspension simply stops working. I need to check this, because I heard that with the electronic one, you can't do that. So even if you set it to the maximum hardness, by default, Erlins knows that you can't close it completely, because there has to be some flow. So it's always, you know, the hardest possible setting. But the hardest setting, how can it even function?
I actually think that the hardest setting is right here. There's still a set range, because normally, for example, when you're working with this kind of suspension, it's the rebound. There are, let's say, between 12 and 20 clicks. And I think it works the same way. So it's not like when you close it, it's just 1 click or 0, because that's never used precisely for the reasons you mentioned. So I think there's a certain value here that you oscillate between.
Yeah. So the springs, they should match your weight, because you might weigh 100, you might weigh 60, whatever, fairings, and that's it.
The bike is really ready now. The only thing I still recommend if you want to make it look good is to consider a few final touches. Mirrors, because you can hit them with your helmet. If you want to lean really far into a turn, I've hit them a few times.
I don't have that problem. You're working on that bike. I was just sitting there on my butt, that's all.
It was clear in the video.
It's nice that you almost, for the camera, it's nice that it barely got recorded, but at least something was captured. Listen, the main thing here is the substantive value. If someone wants to see how these motorcycles ride, they can come to a watch around Miso from Poland, or, well, we'll see where you'll be. Maybe at Endurance, maybe someone wants to come to Endurance. But we can keep going for a bit, because the chat is going well. This beast, let me tell you, it's really cool. I mean, I like the character of this engine, that it's so raw and aggressive. It still has that kind of character, let's call it the 600cc vibe. Because I feel that when you rev it, it just screams and goes, the power is brutal, but it's super linear. That's what I like about this motorcycle.
Yeah, but it really does scream. When I'm riding with earplugs in, I don't hear it. But often when people are riding these bikes, they say, damn, it really screams. Honestly, it's like it wants to squeeze out every last bit of itself. But I'm also curious because you praise this motorcycle a lot, and I haven't really had much pleasure riding it on the stock track.
This is a stock 1000 specification, and that's the kind of motorcycle it is. It's a bit experimental because it belongs to the president, to Grzesiek Wojcik, the owner of the team. And honestly, it's an experimental motorcycle because today Milan Pawlik was riding it, whoever needs it. It's a bike for learning, a training machine, a bit of this and that. So I actually like the brakes, the levers, the speed, and so on. But overall, what I mean is the character, simply the character. And you know, once you get into it and you have the money, if you build yourself a race bike wisely, then it's a whole different level. You have to admit that.
But the key is to do it wisely.
Yes, wisely.
There are already a ton of gadgets and people trying to sell you stuff that sometimes makes no sense at all.
Or you end up shooting yourself in the foot because you overdo it. Yeah, you think it'll be fine, but then you struggle because suddenly the bike is too stiff. Because if you rode this motorcycle 10 seconds slower, it just wouldn't work. If we were riding here, not at a minute 45 or 43 like on this one, but you were doing a minute 53, there would be a greater chance you'd stand out on that one than on this one.
So, just to sum up, it's really important to say if you're starting out, start with something like this. Yes, exactly. Stock motorcycle doesn't have to be beautiful, doesn't have to be new, but it should be stock because stock really works and honestly you can go really fast with it. You'll reach a certain level and then you should aim for a motorcycle that's more built for this type, but make sure it's a transitional step. We often get on something like this and we actually forgot to mention that traction works differently here, anti-wheelie works differently here too.
Well, that's because it is actually a racing harness, you see.
Here you can actually get a bit scared because these systems work differently than before. And they prevent things that sometimes you won't be able to fully control because you're still in the process of learning or you're just getting acquainted with the specific equipment. Yes, and even the advanced ABS system, even though there's a dedicated race mode available, it's still actively present and engaged.
But it's there, it's there. Even if you're not riding on slicks, because let's be honest, it's not that easy to lock up a slick tire in a straight line, you're more likely to do a front flip. And what's important is that Grzesiek rode this motorcycle, not with ABS in race mode, just the standard one where you have cornering ABS, so you're riding with cornering ABS, which means you can even grab the brake lever with full force while fully leaned over. And the motorcycle won't go down. It won't lose traction, so it's step by step, step by step. And when there are simply no more steps left, that's the next step.
Exactly, but not the other way around.
No, not the other way around. That doesn't make sense.
Not the other way around. And the significant fact that there's absolutely no ABS and not so many of these complex systems means it truly requires more extensive experience.
Yes, well done, Camille. It's a pleasure making content with you. Riding with you is even more fun, as long as you're on a street bike and I'm on a race bike. And I'll be kicking myself for coming in early to save the tires. I'll never try to save the tires again.